Yes, welcome in, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Divisional round time. This is your Thursday preview pod from the full 10 yards.
Hey, we're rolling. We drive all game. Stay tuned, man. We got something special for y'all today.
You're listening to the Full 10 Yards podcast.
To the 10, right to the 5, scooting in for the score. Touchdown.
Yes, Thursday night. We are back to get you all set for divisional weekend. Can't believe we're already at the divisional weekend. It does fly by every year, but the boys are here to help me guide you through and get you set for the weekend's action. So let's welcome them in to the broadcast. Tim, good evening, mate. How are you tonight?
Yeah, very well. Looking forward to this weekend's games. Just not many left on the left to go before we have 8 months of off season. But 7 games. Including the Pro Bowl, of course. Joking. I haven't got me Morrison's party pack. I hope you guys haven't too. What a waste of money that is. But yeah, looking forward to the games. Looking forward to going through. And yeah, there's some absolute crackers, especially in the AFC. That I'm very, very much looking forward to.
Yeah, should be some good games. And obviously, if you're playing fancy and betting, we'll get you up to speed from those angles as well. Let's welcome in the betting man. Adam, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, a few dismal days at work. It's been raining non-stop for the last 2 days, so that's not been great for postmen, but can't complain. Getting out there, being allowed out in the fresh air, so yeah, definitely can't moan about it that much.
Top man. Hopefully we don't get no snow, mate, down in the Midlands. I know that's been a problem up north, so that'll slow you down even more, Tori, if that comes overnight tonight.
Yeah, if there's that much. We had a little bit today, but nothing like Lee has posted from Leeds.
Yeah, I think they've certainly had it bad up in the north, haven't they, in Yorkshire and all the rest of it.
Just anyone that lives in the northwest, in the northwest. I was in Scotland during Beast on the East, so don't come complaining to me.
And final man in the huddle, the man that'll get you all of the DFS selections that you need for the weekend. I believe he made himself a small little win on the weekend. We'll get to that later on through the broadcast. Welcome in, mate. How are you doing?
Well, if we hadn't been in COVID restrictions, I'd actually be on my yacht in the Caribbean right now with the amount of money I won last weekend. So, just be glad the airports are shut and I can't actually leave the country right now because that 20 cents would have got me so far.
I was just about to say it must be the world's smallest yacht, but you've just revealed that you're a win is a win, my friend, and it's all about the taking part that counts. All about the taking part. So let's get into it then, fellas. Plenty to look forward to in terms of this weekend. Again, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. We'll work through them as we did last weekend chronologically. So we'll start off in Lambeau Field, where the number 1 seeds eventually join the playoff fold. And of course, I am talking about the Green Bay Packers. They're the home team against the LA Rams, who went on the road last week, put up a good showing in Seattle, powered by the defense. Tim, I would suggest they're probably going to need to repeat the feat to keep this one competitive.
Yeah, fascinating game. This one, the number 1 scoring defense travels to the number 1 scoring offense. It's that old adage, isn't it? The immovable object against the unstoppable force. How many times have we said that in the playoffs? It's as cliche as they come. The likely MVP, Aaron Rodgers, tackles a star-studded Rams defense. Obviously, they shut down Russell's Kitchen last week for the season. Rams don't have too much success on the road, though. They're 5-4 on the road this season, including last week's victory. So yeah, only just the 4 wins in the regular season away from home, and they did it with one thumb to Jared Goff. Obviously, John Wolford, who's just recently been ruled out for this one. Jared Goff is the starter, but similar to last week, the Rams are going to have to lean on that defense. Goff has been practicing this week in full, so maybe his thumb injury isn't as bad as it. Obviously, well, time has helped heal it a little bit. So Goff in his 6 games, including last week, though, has only thrown for 300 yards just the once. 4 of those games with a pick, and he's actually only 63% on them passes in those games. So 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's not going to scare any Green Bay Packers defense. Goff, though, has only actually played the Packers once in 2018. Did have a really good game against them, 29-27 victory. But I would probably argue that it's a better defense that he's going up against than he won the faced a couple of years ago. they've got Pro Bowlers, Alexander, Zedarius Smith on the defense, and they've only given up 25 points once in their last 6 games to end the season. So Packers can be had against the run. Cam Akers announced himself a little bit last week. Not quite the career game he had like against New England, but 131 yards, 1 touchdown, and did look good against the Seahawks run defense. It's generally been pretty good this season. For the Packers, like I say, Aaron Rodgers, it's all about is Devonta Adams and Aaron Jones going to be enough? You have to feel that the periphery players, you Alan Lazard, Valdez-Scantling, Robert Tonyan, St. Brown, Jamal Williams, maybe even AJ Dillon probably need to step up in this one, because Adams will have Jalen Ramsey. That's a juicy matchup, isn't it, to watch how that unfolds. That's certainly one you want to go watch on the coach's film after the game has finished. Two players at the pinnacle of their position. Rams defense, like I mentioned, they restricted Russell Wilson to 175 yards through the air last week with 5 sacks and 10 quarterback hits. Aaron Donald obviously did leave with, was it torn cartilage in his ribs? Could be huge. We're not quite sure on the stats of him, but I don't know whether he'll be. Obviously, he won't be 100%. Leonard Floyd, defensive end, is going to have to continue his stellar season on the edge there and try and get to Packers quarterback who doesn't have David Bakhtiari at left tackle. Again, that's another huge one, but they did okay last week. Like I say, it's going to be fascinating to see kind of what comes out on top. Usually it's the passing defense or the defenses that come up on top in these ones, but they are traveling to Lambeau. Aaron Rodgers off the back of a 48 touchdown season, 18 of them to Devonta Adams, who had the most yards per game. Obviously missed 2 games, which obviously makes him top of that statistic. 20 red zone targets, which was interesting. How many times have we seen this season him just pummel Devonta Adams in the red zone? Just one behind Randy Moss's record, I think, which was 21. But like I say, he's going up against first-team All-Pro Aaron Ramsey. Like I say, it's going to be interesting to see whether the defense comes out on top for the Rams or the offense for the Packers. But with those two potentially cancelling each other out, it could actually go towards being decided by a mediocre Rams offense against a mediocre Packers defense. So that possibly could be the edge to this game, and not what is the box office title headline for the game. So place your bets, I suppose.
Yeah, well, we're coming to Adam for the bet. I'll tell you what, if Aaron Ramsey's playing cornerback for the Rams, I'll certainly be sticking some money on me and Adam. Me and Adam had a little chuckle to ourselves. We thought the ex-Arsenal midfielder had all of a sudden got out of it. But no, all joking aside, mate, good insight to the game in terms of what's about to go down. I think that marquee matchup is one to keep an eye on. I think there's been plenty of coverage of what Jalen Ramsey has done this year, sort of over social media and all the rest of it this week. Obviously, everyone's looking forward to that particular matchup, and it could obviously be pivotal. But don't be mistaken. This Rams defense were brilliant last week, but they're going up against a much stronger offense here. The Seahawks have really struggled in the latter half of the season. The Packers have been red hot throughout. So let's get to the betting then. Adam, walk us through it in terms of how the money men are seeing this one, and then take us through what you like in terms of the bets to get some dosh on.
Yeah, obviously, as you can see, the Packers are 6.5 point favourites. Total's 46. That's been coming down all week, though. Wouldn't be surprised if it closes lower for obvious reasons. As Tim said, it's defence versus Devonta Adams, basically. So if you think that Jalen Ramsey can shut down Devonta Adams, then I think there's a fairly decent chance this will be under. Not really trusting Jared Goff going into the cold Lambeau. I think it's meant to be sub-zero up there with his poorly thumb. In games under 44 degrees, I believe it was, Jared Goff is 0-4, and he's missed the spread by a touchdown in each of those. So it's not looking good for the Rams, frankly. They are really going to need the defense to step up, which it might well do. They scored 137 points fewer than the Packers this year, and obviously find themselves in the same game, which is fairly impressive. And as Tim suggested, defense wins championships. So it will be a very interesting game. I mentioned the Rams stuff last week. They obviously covered the spread because they were underdogs last week, and they went over the total with a very weird game, obviously defensive scores and letting them just kind of run the ball up and down at the end. But it was what it was. The Packers have won 12 first halves this year. 11 of those games they won. They haven't lost a first half since week 6. They've had, I believe it was 8 wins and 2 pushes 2 draws at half-time in those games. So that's a fairly impressive little stat. And they've scored over 30 points in all but one of their last 7 games. The whole season, the Packers were 10-6 against the spread. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, I don't believe that you can take the Rams. I just don't think they're going to put up enough points. So I think you've either got to take the unders or the Packers. I would lean to the unders on that one. But I did find a prop that has been mentioned in one of the groups. I think it was Josh Jones who mentioned it, just in case this gets around and he gets word that I've been stealing his stuff. So Cam Akers over 13.5 receiving yards. He's gone over that in 4 of the last 5 games where he's been the starter for the Rams.
Yeah, that seems like a ridiculously good bet. We talked about it on Monday when it was myself, Lawrence and Kieran, and the fact that he's become the lead back in the offense. You think about what's going on in terms of Jared Goff and his health. You think that they'll be looking to get the ball out quickly. Cam Akers, in theory, should be in for a good day there, you would have imagined. Let's see if Dave is going to be sticking him in any DFS lineups for this particular game, Dave, in terms of the showdown captain mode. Where are you looking for players from this particular contest?
Yeah, so for me, this was a toss-up between Devonta Adams and Aaron Rodgers for my captain in this one. And as we've mentioned, Jalen Ramsey will likely spend the majority of his time covering Devonta Adams in this one. So for that reason, I've gone as Aaron Rodgers as my captain, because Aaron Rodgers, for me, he's the front runner of the MVP this season. And the way that he's playing, he will get the ball to anybody, particularly Robert Tonyan, who was only $9,600 if you want to put him in your lineups this weekend, which for me he's going to be the guy who's going to get a touchdown or 2. He's cooled off a little bit towards the end of the season, but I think with Devonta Adams, his ability limited with Jalen Ramsey on him, then I think Robert Tonyan could be a really great option here. However, Devonta Adams, I wouldn't hate you putting him as your captain this week, because he is one of those very few players, those wide receivers in the league, that has got that ability to step up and score against Ramsey. So Jamal Williams is my low key bet in this one. So Jamal Williams, he's been sharing the work with Aaron Jones a lot this season, and it's going to be cold. They're going to run the football a lot of times, and if the Green Bay Packers get up in this one, which I think they will, then they'll want to close out the game. And the running game, which is going to be Williams Jones. So at $3,600, I think Jamal Williams is my bargain in this game. But equally, at $10,000, Cam Akers is a really great play as well, because we know what that Green Bay run defense has been like this season. With the quarterback situation that we've got going on in Los Angeles, I really don't hate Cam Akers at $10,000 either.
Yeah, we may well circle back to Cam Akers a bit later when we talk about the overall weekend team. I know he's somebody that I've certainly got my eye on, just in terms of Robert Tonyan. And as Kieran has rightly pointed out there, 11 touchdowns on the season. As we say, he may well have gone a little bit quiet in recent weeks, but Adam reliably informs me he's 8-5 to score a touchdown at any time. Yeah. So I think that's a one that's decent value as well there. So yes. Some interesting matchups to look out for within that one. That's obviously the game that gets us started on Saturday. As we learned last week, it kicks off at 9:35. We still haven't figured out why it's 35 and not 9:30, but 9:35 is the time for that one kicking off to start the weekend off. Hopefully, off to a good start. Arguably, then, fellas, certainly the game that I, from a neutral perspective, would have wanted to have watched more than anything. Unfortunately, gets then the graveyard shift, if you like, in terms of from the UK perspective. And that is, of course, the Ravens and the Bills, which will be the early hours of Sunday morning, 1:15 a.m. UK time. So obviously your very late Saturday evening viewing. But obviously two really, well, all the quarterbacks in the AFC are really young. We might touch on that a little bit later on when we flip the switch to the NFC side of things. But obviously we've got Josh Allen up against Lamar Jackson. Tim, I think this is just an absolutely mouth-watering contest, mate. One I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah, like I say, it's a real shame that this is the late one, because this is the one that I want to watch of the four of the weekend. Ravens travel to the Bills Mafia. I know there was a lot of takes to take out from the Bills win last week against the Colts. I wasn't overly impressed. Sean, I know you echoed similar comments. I think, but Josh Allen, I know he had a good game. Let's not make no bones about it. He banished or exercised the ghosts from last year's Houston performance in the playoffs. He stood up to the occasion. He didn't turtle, and he, like me, if you think the Colts should have won the game, Josh Allen did all he could to make sure that the Bills did win the game. It wasn't his fault that Frank Reich peed down his legs. But it was pretty much a similar story to the most of the season for Allen when they let him. Early part of the season he was dynamic through the air, and throughout the regular season we've just heard Allen to Stephon Diggs, and it was the same again last week. Combined 6 times for 128 yards and touchdown, which is pretty much the main reason they are 13-3. But they go up against the Ravens defense that limited Tannehill to what I think about 165 odd yards and 6.3 yards per attempt. I know this is a different type of offense. It's black and white comparing the Titans passing offense to the Bills one. But they also shut down Derrick Henry for 40 yards last week, 2.2 yards per carry. They aren't a team. The Ravens defense aren't a team that allow chunk yardage. I think they give up the 4th fewest plays of 20 plus yards. But this is a Buffalo team that are 4th most plays with 20 plus yards with 66 on the season. So it's going to be interesting. Again, it's going to be kind of like a Packers versus Rams. It's the immovable object against the unstoppable force. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Ravens defense, Matthew Judon and the other name escapes me. Matthew Judon, Marcus Peters. They've both been not practicing this week as well, so they're obviously going to need to go to help stifle this Bills offense. But it's going to be interesting to see that the Ravens defense, their blitz tendencies. Blitzes against mobile quarterbacks can often backfire. The Ravens blitz the most in the regular season, 44% of plays, and like I say, Josh Allen is very more than capable with his legs getting outside and extending his plays. We saw the play to Dawson Knox last week in the back of the end zone. He doesn't have to run it in as much as perhaps he has in yesteryear. But he has 8 touchdowns on the ground as well. So, he really is pick your poison, especially if Josh Allen gets outside the pocket. But talking of rushing QBs, we have the Lamborghini of rushing QBs for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson also getting his first win as a quarterback. Yet another sandwich I owe to Mr. Lawrence Voss. So I don't know how many he's racked up now, but he's probably got enough to punch in a full loyalty card courtesy of yours truly. But they do match up against the Buffalo run defense. They give up 5.4 per carry. Against the Colts last week. The passing attack is limited for the Ravens, but Marquis Brown has had a good time of it over the back end of the season, ever since he kind of moaned really that he wasn't getting anything through the air. He had over 100 yards through the air last week against the whoever they played. Who did they play? The Titans. But they're a poor defense. So again, maybe a slightly upgrade in opponent here. But it's a fascinating game in prospect. Josh Allen is actually yet to win a game against the Ravens. I was looking back through some previous history in this game. Allen made his debut in the second half against the Ravens in week 1 in 2018, coming on for the famous Nathan Peterman when they were getting blown out when they put 3 points on the board. But in that game also was Mr. John Brown, who was the Ravens wide receiver at that point. Obviously switch allegiances and plays for the Bills on this occasion as well. Lamar Jackson in that game in week 1 2018 also saw his first set of action coming in for 30 snaps in that game, attempted 4 passes. Be touch and go whether he attempts more in this one. I'm just poking the bear a little bit there for Mr. Lawrence Voss, but it's going to be a fascinating game. It's going to be the game of the weekend for me, it's going to be great to see two young rushing quarterbacks going at it. But it's going to be one to stay up for if you do.
Yeah, most definitely. I'll come to Adam straight away just to get the views on the betting side of this game before I sort of give my sort of slant on it. So, Adam, take us through what we've got in terms of the money line and all the rest of it for this one.
Yeah, Bills are 2.5 point favourites, over unders 50 points. Obviously, we were all over the massive high-scoring game in Tennessee last week between the Ravens and the Titans. So for that to land on 33 points was a bit of a shocker. And it's probably why this line's very low or considerably low. than I would have expected. I would have thought it'd be 54-55, to be honest. But there was some rumours of weather earlier in the week happening in that area, but that seems to be kind of dying away now. So I don't think there's going to be weather issues. So it could well be a high-scoring game. Key for the Ravens, obviously, is to just dominate the game and do what they did last week, do 6-7 minute drives. Try not to get behind, because their passing attack isn't going to be able to keep up with the Bills if it gets into a shootout. So they're going to have to try and grind it out. Obviously, as I say, last week they came back from 10 points. First time Lamar has been able to do that in a game. And in fairness, they dominated that game against the Titans. They were by far the better team. Key for the Bills will be to not turn the ball over, keep Josh Allen safe. Obviously, they have very little run game this week. I think Josh Allen rush attempts is a decent look. Again, that's another one that was mentioned in the prop group I'm in. QBs tend to run more in the playoffs because obviously the season's on the line. So I wouldn't be surprised if he rushes a fair bit. And with Zach Moss out, he probably will be needed to. I think he will throw an interception. No, Marcus Peters obviously is a bit of a ball hawk. And as Tim said, with the blitz in, he's probably going to be under a bit of pressure. So I wouldn't be surprised if he throws one up. The Bills were slow starting at this in the games in the final 5 games of the season. They'd only scored 10 points in the first quarter of those games. They did obviously score 7 last week, so that's bumped up a little bit. But they scored every quarter last week as well, which is pretty good. The one I do like to target this week, as well as the Ravens, because I do think the Ravens will win, is Mark Andrews. You can get him at 5-2 on Paddy Power to score anytime. The Bills gave up 136 yards to the tight end last week, and a touchdown to Jack Doyle, I believe it was, in the back of the end zone. They've given up 9 touchdowns to tight ends on the season. The middle of the field is where you want to attack them, which will be the Ravens' run game, and I believe probably Mark Andrews. So that's probably a decent one. You'd imagine Trey White will be on Marquis Brown. Trey White does get beaten by speed, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if they take a couple of shots there, but I think Andrews will be the main target, as he normally is. So yeah, it should be a cracker, as you guys have said. I plan on napping in between and trying to get up for that one overnight, and yeah, fingers crossed it's a bit more higher scoring than last week.
Yeah, it's certainly got fascinating written all over it. You can tell just by how close the odds are there, and obviously how shallow the handicap is. It's a real difficult one to call, isn't it? Dave, let's get your view then from a DFS perspective. I'm assuming that the quarterbacks will probably play a key part, and there you go. Spoilt your thunder almost, mate. Josh Allen down as your captain.
Yeah, it's a toss-up between the 2 quarterbacks here, and Lamar Jackson is just slightly more expensive of the 2 to captain at 18,300, with Josh Allen being 18,000. And that surprises me a little bit, because I do think that Josh Allen will be the highest scorer in this one. Now, I will just point out that 10,800 for Devin Singletary is the price to captain him. He is not that expensive if you just want to have him in your lineup, just as a normal, which I wouldn't recommend captain him. So I would, Devin Singletary. Obviously, Zach Moss is out now. I'd expect to see him have an uptake of work in that backfield, even though Josh Allen is the main guy there. J.K. Dobbins is also a nice play in this one. I think that, like we said, the Ravens are going to concentrate the game on the run, but that is also why I like Gus Edwards as my value pick in this one at 3,900, because he's upset a lot of J.K. Dobbins owners this season when he's come in and vultured touchdowns, etc. So Gus Edwards, I like him at that value. If we can bump up our rosters at the top end with the likes of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, those kind of players, really bump up the value at the high end, and then Gus Edwards comes in at a nice value play at the bottom. But yeah, it's going to be, you can pick anyone pretty much from the Bills passing game, and then the running, the Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins certainly from the Ravens side of things.
Yeah, want to keep an eye on Cole Beasley. I think he's dealing with a few injuries. He might be a bit banged up, so John Brown might be a good play in this one. Also, potentially, he's a guy that I'll be potentially looking at. I think just in terms of the game itself, and we talked about this again on Monday, I think I expect the Bills to play a lot looser with the monkey off the back of getting that playoff win under their belts. I think there was a lot of tension there on Sunday, and I think they will play much more like the Bills team that we've seen over the course of the last month, 6 weeks of the season. So I do expect there to be points in this one for the Ravens. And I say this every week, it is all about, can you stop the scrambling ability of Lamar Jackson. If anybody finds the kryptonite and how to do that, then invariably you obviously completely limit what the Ravens are capable to do. Mark Andrews was a huge weapon, particularly last year. Hasn't had as stellar of a season this year. And outside of Hollywood Brown last week, there wasn't really an awful lot going on through the air. So Andrews does need to step up. I just said I would just want to see that Ravens attack more rounded. To be completely honest, I think it's almost too much on Lamar's shoulders. To be honest, half of the time, but certainly should be absolute cracker. Like I say, it's an early morning one, but at least it's on Saturday, I suppose. No one's got to get up for anything in particular on Sunday, so I suppose it could have been worse, couldn't it? So yeah, late night Saturday, early morning Sunday. Ravens at Bills. The Sunday evening games, then, they don't actually get going until all the way till 8:05 of the evening, and I can't believe I'm saying this, fellas. Divisional weekend, and the Cleveland Browns are playing football. I'm still a little bit stunned. So, Tim, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I wasn't on the Monday pod, but I watched the game in 40 on Monday morning, and literally within 30 seconds, it was just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I famously said on this podcast last week that I could not see many scenarios with the Browns winning that game, and I don't even think Browns fans, and even the most biased of Browns fans, could have seen a 20-0 lead at the end of the first quarter. Jesus Christ Almighty! Like I say, Browns smashed the Steelers to win their first playoff game in what point? Yeah, for you, Sean, feels like forever. Obviously, be sure to check out people listening to Sean's heartfelt article in the deep dive last week. All Browns fans are rejoicing up and down the country and all over the world. But as a neutral, I would be partly a bit worried that the Steelers did manage to creep back in, although that the Browns did have them at arm's length pretty much for the whole game. But as a Browns fan that hadn't won a playoff game in God knows how many years, when it started to get to within 2 scores, you're thinking, "Oh, hang on a minute, what's going on here?" This Browns defense as well. That have had COVID issues over the past month or so. It is a defense that you can pick apart. Denzel Ward, I think, is supposed to be back for this one. And if you just go back to last year's Super Bowl run by the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes does have a history of reducing really large deficits in no time at all. So even if the Browns somehow get to 28-0 lead, again, it's going to be a lot scarier you want a 28-point lead in the fourth quarter rather than the first one. Browns' run game actually matches up pretty well with the Chiefs on this one. Chiefs are below average against the run. Although, that being said, it was the same story when Tennessee came knocking in the championship game last year, and they shut down Derrick Henry last year as well. So if they can adjust accordingly, chances are that they can have a bit of success defending the 1-2 punch of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, obviously a former Chief, goes up against his former team for the first time in this game. But talking of, it's not just the run game, but Baker Mayfield showed up last week as well. He's growing in confidence and growing, and he's growing into what he is supposed to be. Obviously had a bit of a sophomore slump last season. Jarvis Landry will need to be the guy again. Austin Hooper had his hands pummeled last week as well against the Steelers. They will need to utilize those two guys to move the chains, to keep Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs off the field, to extend drives and ultimately score points. Part of the reason for Baker's kind of resurgence is that they have the first ranked offensive line in the league. They're top 10 in terms of sacks given up. They didn't give any up last week against TJ Watt led Jesus Christ, Steelers defense. But the Chiefs aren't notorious for sacks or pressures. But again, the line will have to be on top of its game to allow Baker Mayfield to feel comfortable in the pocket, to make those crucial third down plays, to move the chains, and to keep the offense on that field. On the other side, Patrick Mahomes, and say he doesn't really need too much introduction. He's had a relatively quiet season. There's not really too much buzz around him, although to be fair, he's not ended the season that great. He has had on the season 38 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 108 passer rating. But last 3 games, he's had 4 interceptions and 7 sacks. So maybe that Patrick Price of State Farm is coming back down. He's had 2 weeks off. Possibly might be a bit rusty, but then again, he might be a bit recharged. It's going to be difficult to know. It's notorious Andy Reid offense off the bye, and Patrick Mahomes off the bye as well. Generally do quite well, but it's an extended break, obviously 2 weeks. So it'd be interesting to see. Clyde Edwards-Helaire missed the last part of the regular season due to a leg injury. He was limited in practice on Wednesday, but he was downgraded to did not practice on Thursday. So trending in the wrong direction. Signs point to Le'Veon Bell again resuming his role that he's had over the last couple of weeks. But as we know, the Kansas City Chiefs have so many weapons, 5 receivers over 400 yards, and there's just so many ways they can beat you, whether it's a shovel pass to Travis Kelce on the goal line or it's a jet sweep to McCole Hardman. There's just so many weapons for this Browns defense to try and cover, which could be their Achilles heel for the Browns. Promises to be a lot of points in this one. I say 2 good offenses against 2, not average defenses. Defenses aren't great on third downs in this one. The offenses are both good on third downs. The Chiefs had 15 touchdowns of 20 plus yards, which is most in the NFL. And unlike last week, like I said, I can actually see some scenarios where the Browns win this game. So, Sean, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for you. I'm sure you want me to just dump on them so that they can prove me wrong. But yeah, I can see both teams easy to get into 30 points in this one. So, again, if you are staying up, you should be rewarded.
Yeah, I think it should be a good game. We'll come straight to Adam from the betting perspective on this one. I think the worrying thing, Tim, and you just said there about you can see reasons why Cleveland might win is for me, there's all of a sudden too much talk of the. I don't know if it's because of the sheer surprise of the fact that the Browns obviously got the job done last weekend, but there's almost too much talk of that. Kansas City are massive favourites, as Adam will tell us now, and rightfully they're massive favourites. So, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. But Adam, take us through what the line's actually telling us.
Yeah, as you've just said, Chiefs are 10-point favourites. The over-under is a huge 57 points. And there's a good reason for it. As Tim said, the defenses are both below average. The defensive DVOA ranks the Chiefs as the 31st best team against the run, which obviously is a pretty good matchup for the Browns because that's all they want to do. Really is get them running, which is why I've chosen Nick Chubb anytime at 10-11 as my bet on this game. But the anytime scores are all fairly low because 57 points. It should be a heck of a game. The Chiefs haven't actually covered the spread in the last 8 games. And the last half of the season, they looked like they were just kind of strolling through. They didn't look like they were really putting that much effort in. And it's a really tough one to handicap because you know what the Chiefs are. And it's whether they are the team that we all think they are or whether they've just taken a step back this season. I personally believe that they are the team that we think and that they can destroy anyone. They've had impressive wins. That's the thing. They won at New Orleans. They won at Tampa. They won at Buffalo. They won at Baltimore. So they've gone on the road and beaten some very good teams this year. So it's not like they can't do it. The Baltimore game obviously was the one that we all thought would basically secure the first seed. And they dominated that game. So they can definitely do it, and I believe they will. I do think, however, that the Browns have a decent chance of covering the spread. So I would lean that way there. I can't take a 10-point.
Yeah, 10's way too many in the playoffs.
Yeah, I can't do that. Obviously, as Tim said, Mahomes hasn't had the best visible season, but he finished second in passing yards, finished fourth in TDs, and he finished second in QBR. So it might just be a case that we kind of hold him to a rather high standard that that's a bad season for him. Yeah, he's pretty damn good. So it should be a brilliant game. I'm really looking forward to this one. Luckily, as you said, it's the slightly earlier game for us. Even if it does get started later than we would like, it should still be done by midnight. And as Ross has said in the comments, it'd be a heck of a game if it can be the 7 versus 5 touchdowns, 700 yards each, whatever it was in college for. Was it Oklahoma and Texas Tech? Was it?
Yeah, Texas Tech. Yeah. Was it 57-64 or something stupid, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it'd be lovely if Joe Mixon can get 5 TDs in a game again, as he did in that one. So, yeah, it's it'd be. It should be a really good game. I would be quite happy for the Chiefs to be a dynasty for the next 10 years after. Admittedly, I'd like Sean to get the win on this one, but they've had a better season than anyone expected, so they've had enough. Let the Chiefs win it.
Oh, mate, listen, more than enough. I mean, I'm just enjoying every minute of it now. I think in terms of those Kansas City wins, and I think why they are impressive is if you look back to those key key games that you mentioned there, and you mentioned all three that I think were key games on the schedule. The Ravens game, they dominated it. The game against Tampa, they absolutely were. That was a similar situation to the Browns last weekend when they're like 28 points to nothing up, sort of halfway through the second quarter or whatever the case was. When they've needed to win a game, they've won it fairly convincingly, or they've certainly got into a position that they can then take their foot off the gas. The game against the Saints was another one that they were going to win it big. The final scoreline looks close, but essentially take the garbage points off the board at the end of the game, and it's a convincing Chiefs win. I think they've done more than enough throughout the year, and like I said, they are rightfully favourites, absolutely rightfully favourites. But I do think that that over 57 is potentially in play, and if that is the case, Dave, I'm sure from a DFS perspective, plenty of options to be licking our lips at in terms of the players in this one.
The old mute there. Yeah, so like you said, there is plenty of great options in this one, and Patrick Mahomes is the obvious captain in this one, but at $18,000, that is just a little bit too rich for my blood. So I am going to captain Tyreek Hill in this one at $50,600, and I want to do that for a couple of reasons. I want to be able to save my dollars to be able to get some high end talent there. So I do like the Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt stack in here. And I found myself in quite a few places putting him in with Baker Mayfield as well. So Baker Mayfield, a nice captain option there at $14,700. So I think that is a really nice option there, because the Browns are, I think, sorry, Sean, going to get behind in this one. They are going to have to rely on Baker a little bit more than perhaps they've wanted to in some games this season. But he has shown at times that he's got the ability to do that, and I think that he will put up the points. So, yeah, I'm liking stacking Hill, Chubb, Hunt, Mayfield. And then at the bottom end of the roster, Donovan Peoples-Jones. All it takes is a touchdown. If we've already included the people that we've included there in the roster, we are going to have to go for some lower end budgeted players. And Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's had 312 yards on the season, a couple of touchdowns. So we are going to have to rely on a touchdown in this game for him to be relevant in this one. But it's a possibility. And with the players that we can get at the high end of the roster, like you said, there's going to be a lot of points in this one. So I'd perhaps lean against going into a showdown for this one, because it's going to be really difficult to get that winning lineup with the amount of points that are going to be scored. But certainly some great pieces in here for the classic mode when we talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Just going to flip it back to Adam, just a point that you wanted to make just in terms of the Chiefs against the spread and everything, mate.
Yeah, as Tim said, coming off a bye week, the Chiefs, it always gets talked about whenever they're on a bye. They're 7-3 straight up in the last 10 off a bye, but only 5-5 against the spread. So I believe it is factored into the spread. A lot of people I know that do power rankings had this game as about 7 points, 7 or 8 points. So yeah, I think it is inflated.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think that it will get talked about. I just don't think it's as big an edge as people think.
I think the only way that 10 points gets covered is where Kansas City. It's a scenario where Kansas City are 7 up and Baker's driving down the field and there's a pick six or whatever. And that's the only way I can see the 10 covering. I like the Browns plus 10.
Yeah, I think it feels like deja vu, fellas. I think I said here last week and said if the Browns are going to win the game, they're going to need to hit the overs, and that's probably exactly the same way I feel on this. If the Browns are going to win, they're not going to win it by 20 points to 13 or anything ridiculous like that. They're going to have to win something like 45 to 35 or 38 or whatever, similar to what happened last week. I think the offense has put up points on everybody this year. So I can see why people are giving the Browns a chance. They got 41 points against the Titans. They put 42 up against the Ravens and put 48 up last week against the Steelers. So the offense can hang with anybody. I think Baker Mayfield deserves a lot more credit than he gets. I think everybody bangs on about the run game, and rightfully so. But Baker in the last half of the season's thrown 1 interception against 14 touchdowns. His rating is as good this year as Patrick Mahomes in terms of certain websites and grades. Read into that whatever you will. I know people have different views on those, but his play has been fantastic. And like I said, ultimately, all joking aside, for me, I'm just glad to see him playing in the game. So looking forward to it. Sunday night should be a good one. Should be plenty of points. If
you have to pick a side and it comes down to the performances in adverts, who are you going with?
Oh, at home with Baker Mayfield, obviously.
At home with Baker Mayfield, yeah. Okay.
I do love social media, though, how quickly we've already now got adverts of At Home with Baker Mayfield with Heinz Field in the background as opposed to First Energy Stadium. So, yeah, it doesn't take long in the Twitterverse, does it? Final game of the weekend, then, fellas, is the one that should be on the History Channel with Tom Brady himself coming out with that comment. Great bit of Twitter posting from Brady there. But, yeah, all joking aside, the two old men go head to head, but it should be an absolute corker to round off the weekend. Third time we've seen it this season, and obviously the Bucs will be hoping that it's a slightly different result this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm dubbing this one the Pension Bowl. Tom Brady, 43. Drew Brees, you reliably informed me, is 42 on Friday. So happy birthday to Drew. I know you watch this, religiously, especially on a Friday. So happy birthday to you, sir. But yeah, you could be forgiven for thinking this was like a vet league and it was just like walking football or something with these two at those ages on the stat sheet. But it's an interesting debate actually going into this one. Who kind of needs to win this one more? You know, because you've got question marks over will either return next year. You know, if one goes all the way and wins the Super Bowl, will they retire off the back of that? Or, you know, if someone loses this game, will they retire off the back of it? It's very interesting to see the performances of the players as well. Tom Brady obviously has been lighting it up the last couple of weeks as well. But if you're the Saints and you're Sean Payton, you'll be very happy with the fixture. Like I say, they've won the 2 regular season games this season, and Sean Payton won the 2 last season as well. Sean Payton's 4-0 against Bruce Arians, leading the Bucs, including that 38-3 demolishing in Week 9. I think it was Monday Night Football, was it? But yeah, there's a stat here: 2 teams that go 2-0 in the regular season, obviously in the division games, and facing the playoffs are 20-12. So I was actually quite surprised that it was. I can't figure out whether that's close or not. Obviously, it's two every 3 games, so I'm not quite sure if that favours the Saints or the Bucs. But yeah, like I say, yeah, Bucs and Brady have been playing lights out. There's some debating whether or not it's actually Brady's best season in a red shirt, but obviously he's got a lot of weapons than he had comparatively to New England. Mike Evans obviously came off and showed no ill effects last week against Washington. Antonio Brown's now scored in 4 straight games, hitting the road running at the right time of the season. But yeah, talking of the matchup, Mike Evans usually gets shut down by Marshawn Lattimore. So it'd be interesting to see. You know, obviously Brady's got a lot more weapons at his disposal. We all saw Cameron Brate last week. We all thought he was dead, didn't we? Gronk doing the blocking. But yeah, there is a key injury in this one. Trey Hendrickson. For the Saints pass rush, he's had a fabulous season. I think it was at 13.5 sacks. He's dominated in the games against the Bucs this season as well, against Donovan Smith. So they want him to go. Cam Jordan obviously does what he does on the other side. It's got a bit of a feel of a nip and tuck in this one. Like I say, the Saints will feel like they've got the edge, but again, you can't take anything for granted considering how the Bucs have played at the back end of the season. And to say Tom Brady, this is when he earns his money, isn't it? So he's been there, done it before, and to say, I could reel off his playoff stats, his win-loss record in the playoffs and Super Bowls, and we'll be here for the next half an hour. So I'm not going to do that because I've got to go to bed in a minute. It's past my bedtime. But yeah, it's going to be a game. You know, 2 offenses are going to execute. It's just going to be coming down to which defense is going to make that one play, or which team is going to make that sack or that fumble, which could be. It's going to be a very close game, and it's going to be fun to watch.
No, it certainly should be. I think it's an intriguing one to finish off the weekend. Obviously, divisional rivals, so these two know all about each other. Like I say, it's the 3rd time that we've seen them. Obviously, Adam, as I alluded to, the Saints have certainly had the upper hand in terms of the matchups that we've had throughout the course of the season. So take us through the betting and your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, as you say, they won 38-3 in the first game, 34-23 in the second game, and covered the spread in both of them. Yeah, I think, honestly, I think the Bucs are going to win it, but I can't really justify why. It's a weird one. I'm going to take the 6-time champ more than I'm going to take Drew Brees. But the Saints are 3-point favourites. The total is 52. Yes, it really is going to be an intriguing game. It's going to be the Saints' pass defense has been brilliant in the second half of the season, but then on the other side of it, you've had Tom Brady after the bye week. 43-year-old man obviously needs a bit of a rest during the season, and he's been lights out since that bye week. I just had a quick check on Antonio Brown. He's 9-4 anytime, which after scoring 4 in a row, that's bigger odds than I would have expected, to be honest. But again, it's a decent pass defense they're going against. Mike Evans has averaged 51 yards per game against the Saints in his career. That's over 13 games. His line is 63.5 at the moment, so it might be a cheeky one to go under. It's always a risk going under when it's a 52-point game, though, so I will probably give that one a miss. I can't get away from it being interesting. Frankly, it should be a cracker, and very much looking forward to it. It is going to be a lot of it's strength v strength. That's the problem. So it wouldn't be surprising if it's under the total. Obviously, you've got the Bucs passing attack versus the Saints passing defense. You've got the Bucs run defense against Kamara. If they can slow him down, then obviously that should do the job. The Bucs are particularly poor in the slot, though, defending the slot. And then you've got Michael Thomas coming back, so it could be a huge game for Michael Thomas. But I really can't see past a few of them. Tim alluded to the beating a team 3 times in a season thing, which I thought would be difficult, and everyone always says it's difficult. But yeah, the team going for the 3rd win is 66%, so you can't really use that as a handicap, which I was attempting to at one point before I did a little bit of research. So yeah, it should be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. I probably won't be up to watch it because obviously it's rather late, but I do like the Bucs to win.
Interesting. Like you say, with the games that have happened throughout the course of the season, I think it's just the form that Tampa are in over recent weeks, and in particular the offense. So Dave, let's turn to you when we talk about offensive players. We want to know who to get in the fantasy lineups. Who are you going for in this one, buddy?
Yeah, Alvin Kamara in this one is going to be my captain at $15,300. I think the Saints are going to have to rely on him in this one. Of course, we have got Mike Thomas there, but he is actually a little bit more expensive in this one. He's $15,900 if you do want to captain him, and that's probably because, as Adam alluded to, that the Bucs aren't great in the slot, so we are expecting him to see a lot of targets, a lot of catches, and maybe a touchdown or 2 in this one as well. Brady is actually your most expensive captain in this one at $16,500. So I think he's going to have a good game, but I am steering away from that one a little bit. And then Antonio Brown is my next best, as we mentioned. He's got he scored in 4 games in a row. But so's Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is having a very good end to the season. So it's really pick your poison with those wide receivers there, with Evans, Godwin, and Brown. And even though it is a tough matchup for them individually, I think the 3 together will provide Brady certainly with enough options that one of them will hit. And if you've got one in the team and they go off, then it will certainly pay dividends. And my value pick for this game, and just because I wanted to say his name essentially, best name in the NFL, it's Lil Jordan Humphrey. That's actually his captain price. So he's $800. Obviously, you're not going to captain him in this one, so he's going to be $800. He's only come into to play in the last few weeks of the season for the Saints. It's extremely touchdown dependent, but I promise you, I'll be jumping up and down on my sofa should Lil Jordan Humphrey score a touchdown in this one, and he is propping up my lineups for this one.
Do you know what? When you sent over the names and I saw that, do you know what I'd said? I bet he's only put that on there so he can say his name.
I was scrolling through the fellow ends. And I don't know, you've got players like Ty Montgomery, he's $300. Scotty Miller is probably one of the next best at $2,100. So yeah, there's a few decent options there for you at the low end. But let's go Lil Jordan Humphrey and celebrate together when he gets his touchdown on Sunday.
He's emerged over the last few weeks, obviously, though, with Michael Thomas coming back. Like you say, that could be the one. I know he's expensive, but the Bucs defense, if you're going to get at it, generally, it's through the air. Obviously, like you say, Alvin Kamara can do it through the air as well as on the ground, so you obviously got the value there from both angles from a DFS perspective. But certainly, I think through the air is where the Saints will have their joy. I mean, you've only got to think back to a weekend ago, and good old Taylor Heineke put up 306 passing yards against them. And that's for a Washington team that aren't exactly renowned for a passing offense. So I certainly think the Saints will have some joy through the air in this one. If you do want to get on Little Jordan, Adam has reliably informed me 16-1 for an anytime touchdown for Little Jordan. So there you go, Dave. Get Little Jordan. Put $1,200 on Little Jordan at 16-1, then you really can go and buy that yacht, mate. Right, fellas, that's all the games covered off, and we've obviously gone through each of the games from a fantasy perspective as a captain showdown mode. But obviously, if you want to play across the slate of the weekend, and these are the games that Adam will have created for you to get involved with and join if you want to play along with the likes of myself, that's where you'll find me playing and giving Adam my $5 every week, which I've seemingly done since about week 4 this year, but never mind. Who are we going for, Dave, in a full team for the slate of the 4 weekend games?
Yeah, and on this one, I did start to write it out, and I went Mayfield, Chubb, Hunt, and I got 3 in. I was like, no, I can't do the Browns triple stack across the entire weekend. But then I saw Cam Akers in there at $5,700. As I've already mentioned, against that Green Bay run defense, I'm happy to spend a little bit less cash on my running backs this week. I think Cam Akers and Kareem Hunt are providing absolutely brilliant value there. Kareem Hunt, if the Browns do get behind a little bit, we should hopefully see a little bit more passing work from him. But he did have 2 touchdowns last week as well on the ground. So it's not solely Chubb in this backfield. Hunt has got a part to play. And I'm not saying that he is going to get another 2 rushing touchdowns this week, but at $4,800, it's certainly great value there at the running back position to pair up Cam Akers. Baker Mayfield, as I've already mentioned, I think they will be playing from behind, so he's going to have to be lent on a little bit. And as I always say in my DFS lineups, I do like to spend a little bit less money on the quarterback so that I can stack some other positions. Baker Mayfield is actually the 7th most expensive quarterback of the weekend, 8th. Jared Goff and Wolford have kind of balanced each other out a little bit. Obviously now Goff has been named the starter, but at the start of the week when everything was priced up, it was more unclear. So that's why they are less expensive than Baker Mayfield. And of course, Taysom Hill is there or thereabouts at the bottom end of the 8th place. And this lineup, what I really do like about it is the wide receivers here. So we've got Devonta Adams, Stephon Diggs, and Chris Godwin. That is 3 stud wide receivers that I all expect to go off. Devonta Adams is interchangeable with Tyreek Hill. You can save a little bit of cash there, not too much, but you can. I think it's $600. So you can save there if you wanted to put Hill in instead of Devonta Adams, and then you can perhaps use that to bump up your Gabriel Davis. Maybe that's probably the weakest position there. So maybe you could upgrade that. But yeah, absolutely love those wide receivers in this one. Bobby Tunyon, as we've already mentioned, I really like him for a touchdown or 2 this weekend. So he is a great flex play. And the Packers defense was really, really difficult to go for this one this week because Packers, I'm not thrilled about the defense, but the fact that they're playing the Los Angeles Rams, I think the simple fact that I'm playing the Packers defense is because the Rams are going to be the lowest scoring team on the weekend, in my opinion. There's so much firepower in all of the other offenses, which of course they've got to the divisional round, they're going to be. But the Green Bay Packers are actually the most expensive DST that you can get on DraftKings this week, which I don't typically like to do. I like to save a bit of money there to invest in other positions, but I just think it's really difficult to pick anyone else. I think the Packers are going to be the highest scoring DST for the reason that the Rams are going to be the lowest scoring offense, and for that reason they're my DST this week. So yeah, my only change on this, the only thing that I'm flitting between the two about is swapping Devonta Adams out for Tyreek Hill, and then maybe getting a little bit of an upgrade on Gabriel Davis because he is very touchdown dependent on this one. But apart from that, stack the wide receivers, great value at the running back position, and maybe increase your flex if you are not quite fancying Gabriel Davis.
Looks good to me, mate. Looks a good, strong lineup. Like I say, Adam will have some leagues created to get involved with throughout the course of the weekend. So yeah, come and have a bit of fun. A few quid, and like I say, prizes on offer, obviously, if you finish in the top 3. Right, fellas, we've talked about each game individually. We've obviously took you through the betting. We took you through some of the fantasy angles. Most importantly, fellas, who's going to win? So we obviously all had this conversation before we came on, and Tim will stick the predictions up there now. So we've all gone clean sweep there, fellas, for the Packers. I've got to be honest, I originally said that I fancied the Rams. I do think it will be a close game. I think if there is a
I mean, to be fair though, if the Ravens Bills games and the Bucks Saints game, I mean, whichever team wins, it's not necessarily going to be an upset because it's we're at the creme de la creme of the playoffs. I think it's just the Packers game and the Chiefs game where you could realistically say there could be an upset. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can tell that by the fact that then we've gone 50-50 across the board there in terms of the Ravens and the Bills. Myself and Dave gone for the home team and the Bills. Tim and Adam both on the Ravens. Tim, just come and get your view on that one in terms of why you've gone with the Ravens.
I just think the Baltimore defense is a grave step up from what they faced. They faced for the majority of the season. The Colts defense, they struggled a little bit. I know Josh Allen still had a good game. I just think that the Ravens match up quite well offensively against their defense and can run it. And I don't think they'll be as forgiving as the Colts were last week. I can just see Baltimore overpowering the Bills, and then I think Josh Allen potentially could, like Adam said, could just potentially throw one up to Marcus Peters and away he goes the other way. So I just think it'll be a nip and tuck game, and I think it'll be probably one whoever makes the first mistake loses. And I just think the Ravens will just be slightly too strong for the Bills.
Yeah, interesting, intriguing matchup, that one. I do think that Ravens passing defense can be gotten at. Obviously, the Bills have got weapons on, from all angles, haven't they? Obviously, Stephon Diggs rightfully gets the headlines, but like I say, I think the likes of John Brown and even Wilson Knox and Gabriel Davis, potentially got a role to play. Really, really intriguing matchup. Obviously, you 3 boys have all gone for Kansas City. Don't think any of you, though, to be fair, fellas, think that the 10 points is going to be more than 10 points, do you? You all think it's a close KC win, or is anybody thinking it's a blowout?
Yeah, I'll take the Browns for 10.
You can be honest, Dave.
I'm going to stay muted at this point after backing you in the Browns last week, Sean, and correctly so. Unfortunately, I just see KC. I just think Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, they've had that 2 weeks off, and I think it will do them favours. And I think what they are going to come out with this week, I think we're going to see some really interesting plays and the firepower. Unfortunately, I think it could be more than 10.
Oof, more than 10. Oh dear. I'm not
going to be asked back on next week, am I?
To be fair, I'm just riding the crest of a wave. I just can't pick against them. If I'm being honest, I've said all year. I actually looked at their season guide earlier, fellas, and my Super Bowl pick is still on. I did say Kansas City against New Orleans, so to be fair, I do think the Chiefs are rightly favourites, as I've said, but at least, and me and Dave were talking about this before we hit the record button tonight, at least I'm not dreading the game. Let's put it that way. I think the Browns will put up a good showing, if nothing else. And obviously in the last game, Adam, you said obviously when you were going through the betting, you couldn't really find a good reason why you fancied Tampa. Obviously, you're the only one to go for the Bucks there. Again, I think as Tim rightly alluded to, I don't think anybody would call it a surprise if it went either direction, but just got that gut feeling that Tampa are going to get it done.
Yeah, pretty much. It might just be my dislike of Breeze and the fact that Brady's been playing so well. It's just every time I watch Breeze, it just bores me, and maybe it's just that just kind of is making me lean that way. The same as me and Tim going for the Ravens. Really, is that I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. I know I shouldn't be, as being someone in our division, but I just think the Bucks are gonna grind it out in this one. To be honest. No particular reason, which I know is for a betting handicapper or someone who claims to try and do that, it probably isn't the best, but just one of them things.
They always say, mate, go with your gut. Your gut instinct is normally as good as anything, isn't it? So why not indeed? What it should certainly be, and I think we can all pretty much guarantee, is it should be 4 excellent games for different reasons. I think there's some really intriguing matchups there in terms of strengths versus strengths in some of them, in terms of that Packers offense against the Rams defense. There's some weaknesses on weaknesses, isn't there, in terms of the Browns and the Chiefs defense going against each other. So we should, in theory, see an absolute shed load of points in that one. But it should be an excellent weekend of games. And like we say, I've only got a couple of weeks left, so make sure you do indeed enjoy them. In terms of stuff from us at Full 10 Yards, a few articles that have already come out this week. If you are still catching up on what happened from a weekend ago, go and check out the Takeaways article that came out earlier on in the week. And there's been a couple of additional articles, one from myself, as Tim alluded to earlier, and one from Steve with regards to what the goings-on are with the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously parting ways with Mr. Doug Pedersen on Monday, which came as a little bit of a surprise after, he survived Black Monday. He waited a week, but the Eagles on the lookout for a new head coach. Tomorrow, the game previews will be up in written form. So look out for that one. The boys been beavering away on the keyboards to get you all set. And there'll be more DFS stuff coming out over the course of the weekend. Myself, Kieran and Lawrence, potentially with an extra man in the huddle. We're not too sure yet, but certainly with the three of us, will be on the airwaves on Monday discussing everything that went down. And the four of us, I will invite you back, Dave, don't you, Woody, mate? The four of us will be back next Thursday to get you set for Championship weekend.
Championship weekend, guys. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Championship weekend. It only feels like 5 minutes ago Tim was chasing us all for those season guide bits and pieces, and here we are, nearly at the end of the season. But a fabulous season it has been, so I'm sure that the next few weekends will not let us down. Like I say, whatever you do, enjoy the games this weekend. If your team's involved, best of luck to you, apart from you, Ross Durden. I obviously hope the Chiefs get absolutely walloped, but I'm sure it'll be a cracking... That's it from me and the boys. We will be back, like I say, on Monday. Until then, in the great words of Mr. Kevin Cadle, it's a bye-bye for now. A bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Full 10 Yards podcast. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Full 10 Yards, or email the show full10yards@gmail.com.